Welcome to today's mat class. Floyd and I will be here with you. We're really just going to be on the floor today. So go ahead and set yourself up so that you have some space to move around. And we're going to start out on your backs. What I really want to focus in today on is some hip stability stuff. So take a minute as you get yourself settled on your back and just kind of become aware of your hips, your low back, your pelvis on the floor. Now you can wiggle around as much as you need, but just take a minute to notice where your hips, your pelvis, your low back is making contact with the floor here. Maybe notice if you're feeling a little crooked one way or another. And again, you don't have to change anything. You can wiggle around whatever you need. But just really take a minute to connect to where you're feeling maybe a little tense, a little tight, a little stiff. Maybe noticing any of those places where you're feeling asymmetrical. And then if you can, just shift your attention to your breathing. We're going to take a breath or two here on purpose. I'm going to encourage you to breathe through your nose as best as you can, recognizing that breathing through your nose is most efficient. And as we go through the practice, if I give you some breathing technique or direction that doesn't match what you're doing, to just pay attention, to just breathe and more try and connect the movement to your breathing, not going my speed. All right, so now you're going to bring both knees in towards your chest, hands on your knees. And we're just going to start with this little forward bend. So when you exhale, you're pulling your belly button in, pulling your thighs close to your chest. Try not to use your arms too much. You really want to just let your hands rest on your kneecaps, kind of as a guide. So exhale, pulling your thighs close. Inhale, pressing your thighs away from each other. We're going to do this a few more times with some awareness. As you do this, notice if one knee or both knees want to roll out a little bit. See if you can try and keep them tracking straight in towards your belly, even if it's not a big movement. But when you roll your knees out, it changes the stretch. You miss the stretch in your hips. So even if you notice that your toes are coming together, that's a little rotation. You want to try and keep that little space between your knees. Little space between your feet. Okay, one more time, just with awareness, contracting your abdominals. And then go ahead and set both feet back down onto the floor here. Now, you find a spot where your feet, your ankles, your hips feel okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to focus on your spine. I'm going to move my arm that's closest to the camera. I'm going to move it out of the way so you can see my spine better. But I want you, as you practice, to keep your arms down by your sides. So you can watch a couple of times and then I'll repeat so you can practice on your own. But what you're going to do just for the awareness, just to understand the movement, is all you're doing is when you inhale, you're getting that little arch in your back, pushing your belly, your chest toward the ceiling so you can see that little bridge underneath my back, just that little movement. And then when you exhale, you're going to try and flatten your back toward the floor as much as you can. So that's the movement. You're going to have both arms down by your sides, chin toward the ceiling, so your neck is neutral. And then all you're going to do is when you inhale, you're arching your back that little bit. And then when you exhale, you're really pulling your belly button in, flattening your back toward the floor. You can even press your feet into the floor a little bit here. So just find that little range of motion. It doesn't have to be big. You're just finding that articulation in every joint along your spine. Do this a couple more times, just focusing your attention. Again, noticing wherever you feel it's a little tight, a little sticky. It's a technical term. Now, we're going to continue that spinal movement. You're going to add moving your arms. So this is a familiar movement, right? So when you inhale, you're raising your arms at the same time. You feel that little arch in your back. And then when you exhale, at the same time, you're pulling that belly button in. Arms come all the way back down by your sides. Now really focusing on the breathing. the entire time you inhale. So you're matching the speed of the movement to last your entire inhale, lasting the speed of your movement to last for the entire time for your exhale. Do this a couple more times, focusing your attention in with your breath and the movement. Maybe one more time, just like that. So the next time your arms are down by your sides, just let your arms relax. Let your shoulders relax, let your back relax. All right, now you're going to bring your attention down to your feet. See if you can open your feet a little wider than hip distance away from each other. When we open the feet this wide, what we're doing is we're using the really big glute muscles. So it's a little less tension, a little less stress on your hamstrings. This is a good hint if you're ever doing this little half bridge and your hamstrings start to cramp. You can always open your feet wider to release that pressure, that tension on your hamstrings. So feet are wide, flat on the floor. On your inhale, you're just going to lift your hips up just an inch or two. And then when you exhale, really pull that belly button in, rolling your spine down one joint at a time. Now, I notice in my body, you may notice in yours as well, that as I'm rolling down with that control, I'm pushing a little bit harder on one foot than the other. So see if you can keep that even pressure down through both legs. If it feels okay, we're going to do just a couple more. You don't have to lift very high, but really focus on that descent, on curling your spine as you roll down. If you can, one more time. Again, if you start to cramp anywhere, just back off. All right, now when your hips come to the floor, just let your hips rest on the floor. Lift your feet up off the floor, keeping that space between your knees. Holding the backs of your legs. When you inhale, you're straightening your legs. So what we're doing is we're just stretching those muscles we tightened. Exhale, bend your knees, keeping your knees wide. So again, relaxing your shoulders. You're not really doing anything with your arms. Trying to use the muscles of your abdominals as you bring your knees in. Paying attention to where you feel it the most. Maybe you feel it different on one side than the other. All right, the next time your knees are bent, keep your knees bent, set your feet back down onto the floor. So this time you just want a little bit of space between your feet, a little space between your knees. I usually say hip distance away from each other. And what I'm talking about is if you bring your hands down to your hip bones, you feel your pelvic bones there. That, just notice where the big bones, those femur bones, connect to your hip bones right here. That's the distance we're looking for. Just about that. So your thighs are parallel-ish to each other. All right. Now we're going to do something different with your arms on this one. But the feet stay in this position. Both feet are flat, legs stay parallel. If you're practicing at home and you want to put a block or a book or a box or something between your knees so that you have that little bit of space staying even between your knees, feel free to set yourself up. You can always pause the video and come back. Now the arm position for this one is you're going to be reaching toward the ceiling the entire time. What this does is as you lift then, it's shifting that weight of your body to the space between your shoulder blades. I don't know about you all, but mine always feel a little tight. So this gives that just a little pressure, like a little massage. And I'm losing my AirPods, so thanks for playing. Okay, so here's the deal. You're going to keep reaching toward the ceiling. Legs are strong and stable. On your inhale, you're just lifting your hips just as high as it feels good. And then when you exhale, rolling your spine down, imagine you're reaching through your fingertips just a little bit more. So inhale, lifting your hips, those shoulders press into the floor, legs are stable, parallel to each other. Exhale, rolling your spine down, reaching toward the ceiling, just that little bit more. So I'm going to invite you to do 3 more, but you go at your pace. You don't have to pace with me. When you finish that third, your hips are on the floor. Let your hips stay on the floor. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Hug your knees in towards your chest. You can use your arms on this one just to get that little stretch in your low back. All right. And then hold the backs of your legs. Again, you want that hip distance. And then when you inhale, you're going to straighten both legs toward the ceiling. Now, here's the big awareness for you guys today. When you exhale, you're bending your knees. You want to try and keep your kneecaps pointing toward the top of your head. So again, if your knees roll out or your feet come toward each other, that means your hips are trying to escape from the work. Your knees don't have to go perfectly straight, but you want to try and keep your kneecaps pointing toward the ceiling. So what I do is I put the outside of my hands with my thumbs pointing toward the ceiling, just on my kneecaps, so that I can feel that connection, that tracking of my knees. Now, if you're feeling like you're rolling out, or one leg is rolling out or in, that happens sometimes, just pay attention. It's a little bit of work. If you can, one more time. If any part of your body starts to cramp, that just means back off. All right. Now, when your knees are bent, set your feet back down onto the floor. Adjust your hips, adjust your back, adjust your AirPods. Okay. So I always feel it in my hip flexors after doing that straight leg up in that parallel position. So we're going to take just a little time to release these muscles we just tightened, right? So all you're going to do is you're going to walk both feet to the left just a tiny bit, making sure your hips, your low back are happy here, and then stretching out that right leg. Now here's your tip on this move. If you feel like your hips are really cranky or they start to cramp up, that means you've gone too far. You can always come back to the center a little bit more. You can even stretch that top leg. And if you cross over at the top, it just gives that little pull to the left. You find whatever position for your legs feels right for you today. Okay, you find that space. Because your legs are going to stay in this position, you're just going to move your right arm. On your next inhalation, raise your right arm to the floor above your head. Chin is toward the ceiling here. And then when you exhale, you're sweeping your arm out to the side and down alongside your body, kind of like you're doing the backstroke, turning your chin left. So inhale, arm to the floor above your head, chin toward the ceiling. Exhale, sweeping your arm out to the side, turning your chin away from your moving arm. If you can, two more. We're just getting that big range of motion through your shoulder. If your shoulder's feeling a little cranky today, you can always bend your elbow as you move it. That gives it a little less stress on the shoulder as you take it out to the side. And then we're not going to stay anywhere in this pose. But the next time your hand is down by your side, just let that right arm relax. Bend both knees and walk your feet back to the center. Now, as you come back to this center spot, it's a really good time to adjust. If you need to stretch out your low back again, always welcome. Lifting your hips and setting them back down will realign your hips, your spine. Now checking in, feeling the difference. Maybe noticing how desperate you are for the other side. And I won't make you wait longer. So take both feet over to the right. You can just straighten that left leg out. If it's too much, you can even keep both knees bent if that's better, but you want both hips pressing even into the floor. If you like, you can do the same thing on this side that I did, where you stretch your right leg out as well as your left leg, just crossing that right leg over the top. So you choose, taking a second to find the space where your hips, your sacrum, your low back feel okay. Now we're going to move that left arm. So as you inhale, your left arm comes to the floor above your head. And then when you exhale, you're turning your chin away from your moving arm, bringing that arm all the way down to your side. So repeat, just finding that rhythm. Again, you're going at the speed of your breathing. So the entire time you inhale, you're raising your arm, chin toward the ceiling. So you get that big stretch down your side. The entire time you exhale, you're bringing your arm to your side, turning your chin so you get the stretch along the side of your neck. Do this a couple more times, just at your speed. Don't Try and pace with me. I'm going to do one more. All right, the next time your arm is down by your side, just let that arm relax. Let your head come back to center. Bend both knees, walking your feet back to the center, and adjust your hips, adjust your back. All right, now we've done a lot of work for the glutes, for the low back. We want to do something nice and stable, even, to stretch out that low back. So I'm going to have you roll over onto your hands and knees. Now, as you're rolling over, since I'm here, I'm going to talk about it for a minute. One of the easier ways to roll over is just to keep your knees bent and then roll over so that top arm, that top hand can come to the floor in front of you. So you can push that top hand into the floor and come up onto your opposite elbow. Now, the trick here is not to sink into your hips too much and make that low back angry. So if you pull your belly button in as you're doing this, leading with that top knee, it helps keep your spine more neutral. And then you can come up onto your hands and knees. Hopefully you got there without pain, because we're going to do more stuff. I'm wearing my low riders today, so I'm going to try not to flash you. We're all friends. All right, so you're going to move your spine. When you exhale, just pull that belly button in, rounding your back. Really press your hands into the floor and squeeze your shoulders towards your ears here. And then when you inhale, you're flattening your back, lifting through your chest. Try and pull your shoulders away from your ears. So I'm going to talk for a couple more rounds as we do this. The idea is that you're stretching along your spine on your exhale. And then when you inhale, you're really flattening your back. Try not to drop. Try not to tilt your pelvis out too much. So you're still stabilizing, still pulling that belly button in. It's more like you're lifting through your chest. Can you see the difference between this and this? All right. So exhale, rounding, finding that even stretch along your back. Inhale, flattening your back, lifting through your chest. Just do this a couple more times. On your next exhalation, go ahead and sit back onto your heels. Let your elbows drop to the floor. So it doesn't matter how far back your hips go. Sometimes the knees do not want to bend this much. That's okay if your hips are up, but you want your forearms, your elbows to be on the floor. The idea here is to let gravity do the work, relaxing your neck, relaxing your shoulders. Now, as you come up into this position, if your back is already yelling at you, pay attention and adjust. All right. Now, I'm going to have you come down onto your belly. And I want you to really pay attention to your own breathing as we do this, because my breathing is going to be weird since I'm talking and doing the pose at the same time. It's just going to be weird. So listen, paying attention to your body. You can either rest on your forehead or you can rest on one side of your face. You choose. And then what we're going to do is just bend your elbows so your hands are by your shoulders, your forearms are resting on the floor. Now here's the deal. We're going to focus on the legs just a little bit. Open your feet wider than your mat, someplace where both legs feel even. In this position, if your feet start to cramp, you can always be on the balls of your feet. That's fine. But just take a breath. Feel your body here. Now your legs stay in this position. When you inhale, you're going to lift your upper body, lift your head, your chest. Imagine you're pulling your elbows back. You don't want to push with your hands, so if you're feeling strong, you can even lift your hands, your elbows. And then exhale, lowering everything down. So inhale, lifting, legs, feet stay on the floor. You're just using that upper body. Exhale, lowering down. Now, if you're really paying attention, you might be feeling those glutes activate. Your legs pressing into the floor. It's subtle. If it's too much, if you start to cramp, you can just lift that little bit and lower back down. Maybe one more time. All right, the next time you're on the floor, Rest on the floor. Bring your legs a little bit closer together. And then you're going to push back up onto your hands and knees. Sit back into child's pose. You find the even stretch along your back that feels good. Breathe. All right. Now I'm going to have you shift back down onto your belly. So we're going up and down a lot today. Elbows are bent, kind of like you're making a W with your arms here. Take a breath, just resting on the floor here. And this time your legs are parallel to each other. So just a little space between your feet, little space between your knees. On your next inhalation, again, your feet stay on the floor. Just lift your upper body. When you exhale, lower down. Just find that even, that symmetrical movement. If you can, a couple more times. You don't have to lift very high. One more. All right, the next time you're on the floor, you're just going to stay on the floor, take a breath, and then push back up onto your hands and knees. Sit back into child's pose, finding the stretch along your back. Take a breath or two here. Gravity gets to do all the work. So it's like you're relaxing into the pose. All right, now you're going to shift back down onto your belly. I know we're doing a lot of this. This is me sneaking in push-ups. Do you feel it? All right, so elbows are bent. Legs are parallel-ish to each other. On this round, what you're going to do is connect the right half and the left half of your body. So you're going to lift, extending one arm and your opposite leg. All right, so when you're ready, inhale, lift your head, your chest. You're going to reach your right arm forward, lift your left leg. See if you can flex that left foot. And then exhale, bend your elbow back, lower everything down. It doesn't have to be a big movement. Now we're going to switch sides. So left arm and right leg. Exhale, coming back down. Find that rhythm. Right arm, left leg, connecting across your body here. Exhale, coming back down. And then switching sides. Just that little lift, just enough. All right, once you come back down, stay down. Just breathe. Again with that little push up. As you're pushing up, really pull your belly button in. Try and engage your abdomen so you're not collapsing into your low back. Sit back into child's pose again. Relaxing here. Take a breath. All right, now when you're ready, I'm going to have you come back up onto your hands and knees. Now this next move is small. So think small. All you're going to do is bring your right knee forward like an inch, just a little bit. And then you're going to sit back toward child's pose. Now you may not be able to go back that far on this, especially if you're feeling it in your sacrum and your low back here. So just adjust however you need. And then you're going to come back up onto your hands and knees. Move that right knee back. And then bring your left knee forward just a tiny bit. It's so little. And then sit back into child's pose again. Again, paying attention. If anything is cramping, ripping, tearing, shooting pain, that means you've gone too far. And then come back up onto your hands and knees. All right, and then you're going to bring your knees so that they're even with each other. And we're going to do a little down dog action. If your wrists or your shoulders are really cranky today, maybe skip this part. But if you can't, just come onto the balls of your feet. So tuck your toes under. On your next exhale, you're going to lift your knees up, pushing your butt straight back. Relax your neck. Relax your shoulders. And then when you inhale, bend your knees all the way back to the floor. If you can't, point your toes, keeping your knees even. Exhale, sit back into child's pose again. Now, if it felt okay, I'm going to invite you to do 2 more rounds of that. If it didn't feel okay, take care of yourself. But if you can, inhale, lifting up onto your hands and knees, tucking your toes under. Exhale, lift your knees up, push your butt straight back. Inhale, bend your knees. Pointing your toes, exhale, sit back onto your heels. Okay, one more time. Tuck your toes under. Exhale, lift your knees. Now, if you can, stay here. Just take a breath. Your legs do not have to be perfectly straight. You do want to pull your belly button in here. Now, see if you can just bend one knee, pushing back through your opposite butt cheek. Take a breath. Relax your neck. And then you're going to switch. Bend your other knee. All right, now bend both knees all the way to the floor. All right, did you survive? If you want, you can sit back into child's pose again and just take a breath there. I'm going to adjust everything. All right, now when you're ready, I'm going to have you come so that you're laying down on your left side. Take a minute to adjust yourself and just find a way that you can support your head, your neck here. All right, we're going to start with both knees bent, both legs stacked on top of each other. That top arm can be resting in front of you like a kickstand. All right, so all you're going to do is when you inhale, lift that top knee. Only go as far as it feels good. When you exhale, lower it back down. Now repeat this movement. Inhale, lifting your top knee. Exhale, lowering back down. Do this a couple more times. You just want to really feel the muscles around your hip, the hip flexor working. All right, good news. The next time your top knee is resting on top of your bottom leg, just let it rest. Now what we're going to do is straighten that top leg down toward the foot of your mat. Pay attention here. If you feel like your hips are getting really out of alignment, try and pull your belly button in. You want that engaged lower abdominals. It's okay if your foot doesn't quite touch the floor here. Sometimes it's so tight it won't touch the floor. That's all right. But you want to try and keep your hips stacked on top of each other. Now keep that top leg straight. Point your toes. All you're going to do is move that top leg back a little bit. So you begin to feel that stretch at the front of your hip flexors. See if you can move that top leg back just a little bit more. Okay, find a spot you can rest that top leg. If you want to make it a little stronger, what you're going to do is bring that top arm to the floor above your head. You can even press out, flexing the sole of your right foot, reaching out through your right fingertips. Find the place where it feels good. And then bring that right hand to the floor in front of you. Bend your top knee so your legs are stacked on top of each other. Now I'm going to invite you to roll over onto your back before we go to the other side. I'm going to rotate so I'm still facing the camera. But find that place where you can rest, where you can support your head. Both knees are bent, feet are together here. All right? So all you're going to do is when you inhale, lift that top knee. When you exhale, lower it back down. That's it. So again, inhale, little lift. Exhale, lowering down. Try and keep your hips stacked on top of each other. You're not rolling your hips back. Even if it's just a teeny tiny little lift, it still counts. Okay, let's do one more. Little lift. And then lower down. Now keep your bottom knee bent. Straighten your top leg. Again, you want to try and keep your hips stacked on top of each other. Even if your foot does not touch the floor, it's okay. Sometimes that IT band is so tight, it's just going to hold it up. All right? Now what you're going to do is just move that top leg back behind you just a little bit. We're starting to aim for this hip flexor. Just let the weight of your leg drop toward the floor without dropping your hips. Okay, move that top leg back just a little bit more if you like. Find a place where that top leg can relax. And then you're going to bring your top arm, that left arm, all the way to the floor above your head, only if you can reach. Take a breath or two here. Gravity is doing most of the work. If you like, you can flex your top foot, pressing out through the sole of your foot, reaching out through your fingertips. All right, now bring that arm back to the floor in front of you. Bend both knees. Keep your legs together like this. You're going to roll onto your back, onto the floor. And try and find your mat. Now, here's the deal, guys. If you're at home and you're practicing at home, you don't have to stay on your mat. because sometimes just wiggling back onto your mat is enough to throw your back off. Pay attention. Now, as you get yourself situated, you're going to bring both knees in towards your chest. And we're just going to come back to that very first movement we did today. So hands are just resting on your kneecaps. You're not pulling with your arms. But when you exhale, pull your belly button in. And then when you inhale, press your thighs away from your chest until your arms are straight. Do this a few more times. Just finding that rhythm. Okay, maybe one more. And then you're going to let go of your legs. Set your feet down onto the floor. All right, open your feet a little wider than hip distance away from each other. We're going to do a little twist. And I'm just going to remind you, you know this, as we do this twist, only go as far as it feels good. As you exhale, you're twisting both knees to one side, keeping those feet wide. This is going to really rotate through your hips, your sacrum. If you don't like it, don't do it. Inhale, untwisting. Exhale, twist the other way. You're not trying to force anything. We just want to open up the space across your hip flexors. Maybe get a little wiggle through your low back, your sacrum. Nice and easy. Now the next time your knees are toward the ceiling, keep your knees toward the ceiling. Bring your feet together here. So your big toes are touching each other, your knees are together. And this time when you inhale, you're just going to open your knees wide away from each other. So we're stretching evenly. Exhale, bring your knees together. Inhale, knees go wide. You don't have to make it happen, but just notice how your back arches that little bit on your inhale. Then when you exhale, really engage your lower abdominals. So you're pressing your low back to the floor. See if you can find that space in your low back. Do this a couple more times. All right, the next time your knees are wide away from each other, let your knees stay wide if you can. This is a passive stretch for those inside muscles of your legs. If you start to cramp, just back off. But if you can, stay here. And then again, we're going to pay attention to those glutes. So on your next inhale, just clench your glutes tight. And then when you exhale, slowly relax. Try and find that control. So the entire time you inhale, you're clenching. The entire time you exhale, relaxing. It may not be easy, it may not be smooth, that's okay. See if you can do it one more time. If you can, keep clenching, keep breathing. Now see if you can just relax your right butt cheek. Keep that left side squeezing tight. And then clench both butt cheeks evenly. Now just relax that left side as much as you can. And then clench both butt cheeks evenly. Now you get to relax both sides at the same time, nice and easy. All right, now let those glutes relax. Bring your attention back to your legs. You're just going to bring your knees halfway toward each other. So we're gently tightening those muscles on the insides of your legs, feeling your low back start to tilt toward the floor. See if you can bring your knees a little bit closer together. Holding here, just breathing. And then bring your knees just a little closer together, pulling that belly button in. Okay, one more. Bring your knees nice and close to each other, gently squeezing your knees together, flattening your low back toward the floor. So feet are pressing into the floor, knees are squeezing together, low back is toward the floor. Let's add one more piece. Press the back of your neck toward the floor as much as you can. It's hard to talk here, so. And then relax your neck. Relax your low back, relax your legs. Bring your knees in towards your chest again. And then if you like, if it feels good, take your knees in big, slow circles here, like you're drawing circles with your knees. Just breathe however you need. And then take your circles in the opposite direction. Again, just breathing. And then hug your knees in towards your chest. If it feels good, lift your head up towards your knees. And then set your shoulders and your head back down onto the floor. Set your feet back down onto the floor. Now, I'm going to invite you to stay here for a while. The video is going to end. You can pay attention. You can find that spot where your legs feel good. If you're someplace that you can elevate your legs, like on a chair or an ottoman or a sofa or a bed or something, you can do that. If you want to just stretch your legs straight out onto the floor, also a choice. You choose the space and give your body just a few minutes here to let your body relax toward the floor, to let your body adjust to the work that you did. And as you relax, really pay attention to this space around your hips, your low back, your pelvis. Maybe noticing the effect of what you did. Noticing any place that feels like it has more circulation. Noticing any place that feels a little bit looser, like you stretched stuff out and released some tension. Now you stay here for as long as you like. When you're ready to come up, remember our cautious getting up where you're rolling to one side with your knees together. That belly button's pulling in. Using that top arm to press into the floor, still engaging your abdominals, maybe even roll that top knee forward a little bit more so your low back stays stationary as you come up. Yeah, I twisted a lot on that one. Please take care of yourself. Namaste.